Welcome to Team Perry's Step Out of Line podcast, featuring co-hosts Perry and Lori Finkelstein. Together, they explore, meet, and share inspirational stories with guests who have made a positive impact in today's world. This podcast resonates with our hope to make this world a better place one step at a time through love, acceptance, and uplifting conversations.
Like we're a little Heidi Collins-ish, so that's good.
You're totally Heidi Collins-ish. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I was just gonna say, like, this is amazing. This is right in my lane, what you guys are doing.
Right. So we totally were fangirling you, as you can imagine, for years after we first met you. So we were years, which we'll talk about also. But we decided we're gonna, obviously Corona is still an issue, but we're going through the theme of how people have stepped at a line in their life. And
I've never done that.
Oh, cool. So we got this from Alex Bornstein, who's an amazing actor. She is in Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. And when she won an Emmy, she gave a speech about how her grandmother during the Holocaust stepped out of line and how that led to her survival. And she ended the speech saying, ladies, step out of line. And we said, wow, that's going to be what we're going to ask people. How have they stepped out of line in their life? And no matter how many, we've asked, 50 something people how they've done it. And it's always what we don't expect to hear. So, and it's kind of awesome. Some people have done it multiple times. Some people have only done it once in their life. And it's just really great to hear people's stories. And I know that you are a storyteller yourself. And with your new company that you've come out with, which is awesome, you are working on branding companies and doing what you do best, which is telling people stories of lives and products and companies and getting people excited about it. And the way that you're doing it is, obviously the best form of media, which is video. It's what you have worked on, I would guess, your entire life. Am I correct? That
you are
right up your alley.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? And then we'll go into how you've stepped out of line in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to think about the stepping out of line, because at first when you said that, I was thinking about like being out of line. And that has a very different meaning, right?
Well, sometimes you have to be out of line, and when you step out of line, you're out of line. That's it. It's the same. I think it's the same thing. Yeah, it could be like a great experience. So it could be like, oh, why did I do that? Right. But either way, it changes the course of things. So it's kind of interesting.
No doubt about it. And, I think there's a real synergy or a parallel, if you will, to sometimes either being brave or feeling like, so convicted about something that you had to be brave enough to step out of line, or just stupid. So I bet I'd love to see more of what people have to offer on all of that, because I can't imagine how different the perspectives would be for different people's experiences. As far as, I think what you asked was about kind of what I'm doing now, and how the last time that we were together, which I can't believe was so long ago, but I always love to not only share the piece that we did together with people, but I love to look back at it and realize that it really genuinely was the very first story that I did with a brand. In other words, I'd recently been hired at Lifetime, and your story, Perry, was the very first brand storytelling piece that I've done. And so moving forward from that, without that, and without the reaction that we got from it, and, the emotion and the way that people just really glommed onto that story, and what you and your family and Team Perry was doing was such a wonderful feeling for me. and such a validation, if you will, for, hey, I think we should be doing a heck of a lot more of this. And then on a larger level, now seeing and looking back how many companies and how many brands have really invested in that kind of storytelling. So it all started with you. I mean, honestly, it really did. It's
Who
super
knew?
fun to think about that.
Wow,
Yeah.
no
So
idea.
now it was 3.5 years at Lifetime, right? And I started to get quite a few questions and quite a few inquiries from people about, we ended up doing 55 brand films there in that course of time. Then I started to get, a bit of interest from other companies. And I started thinking, wow, it is a big world out there. I probably could go and do this for others. And that's kind of where it all came from. So now I have several different clients and I get to work in a variety of different industries, but kind of remarkably and organically, they have all seemed to fall in this bucket of health and wellness, which is kind of at the core of my DNA and certainly something that I feel very passionately about too. So that's been lucky and a blessing and really fun to be able to work with other companies that are kind of in that same area. So it's been outstanding. I've been able to work with some amazing people, and all of my photojournalists are amazing, like people that I learn from all the time. And I think we have some good relationships that are going to last for a very long time.
Wow, that's like so amazing. I had no idea that Perry was the beginning of a big change in your life. Because it was a big,
Absolutely.
it was really a catalyst for us as well. And I know we've spoken because we've kept in touch since 2017. I always let you know what Perry's doing, what she's up to. She graduated, she's in college, everything that's
It's
going
so
on.
awesome. Yeah,
So
I just
and
love it.
so I've always felt such a connection with you as a person, as a woman who we just fell in love with the moment that we met you. And
Oh, thank
what you
you.
have done with the 1000 steps video that you've done for us, um it changed the course of Perry's life, I would say. And
Oh gosh, you
I'll explain
guys.
why. Because um when we had it aired and it was amazing, it was even better than we could ever dream it was. And I even the opening shot of high above Miami, and it was just one of the coolest things ever. And people began to watch it and people began to talk, and we've had
Yeah,
people come up and say, hey, I was at Lifetime working out and here I saw a video, and I said, oh my god, that's Perry. And we're like, whoa. So but people began to talk and
so cool.
sharing it, and it caught the
Mhm.
eye of Nelson Figueroa, who is a former MLB player, and he is a sports announcer, and now he's also a trainer. And it caught his eye because he had met Perry when Perry was a little girl, like 7, and then he saw the video in
Yeah.
2017, and he said he cried on his couch when he saw it, and it
Oh,
inspired him to race with Team Perry, which took a lot because it's a 13.1 mile race, so you really have to commit to it. And he
right.
raised over 270,000 that first year for High Lifeline, which is the charity that we run for, as you remember. And that inspired more people and more
Yeah.
people, to the point where it's been 11 years of us racing and training and raising money. And Perry has inspired people to raise, I think we probably are like almost at 700,000 right now for High
Good
Lifeline.
Lord.
So
That is outstanding.
that video was a catalyst to so much. Right.
Yeah.
She was
Yeah.
a salutatorian for school, and then when she was deciding on what college to go to, she wrote
Mhm.
her essay about the 1,000 steps in the video and what it meant to her.
Oh, you're kidding. I want to see that.
So it was just it's infiltrated in every facet of her life. Her school is aware of the video and what she does. It helped her. She's majoring in marketing, and that all started
Yeah.
because of you, because
Oh, you
she realized
guys.
she realized how
Come work with me,
marketable.
Perry.
she just realized the impact that it has and the impact that she can have by telling her story. And after speaking with you, and you brought out some really important and deep questions in us questioning also how we were living our lives and taking care of Perry and us as a family. And it really brought us together. And because of that, it enabled Perry to open up herself more to more interviews, helping more people, getting her name out there. And, we always knew that in order to get people to understand what you're going through, you have to open up your soul and your heart to them. And Perry really
There's
wasn't
no
ready for
question.
that. She was
And
never
that can be
ready for that.
scary.
Right.
Yeah.
And because of your interview, I think we all realized that we were able to do that. So kind of awesome. You really, I don't know if you realize that that's the impact that you've had and on so many people we don't even know.
I
So
had absolutely no idea. I knew a little bit because you told me about the beginning of the story, and that was just incredible. But I didn't know that about the dynamic of you guys and feeling like you could open up a little bit more, because that's such a gift, and that it makes me want to scream out. This is why I do what I do. I mean, it's such an honor to be able to sit and have people try to open up and try to be, braver than maybe they've been before. And it takes a while, oftentimes, to create that trust and that relationship. And, it really works both ways. So you make me a better interviewer and someone who listens better when I can see that you're opening up, if that makes sense. When you try to do this kind of delicate dance where, wow, they're really opening up to me. I need to listen even better and deeper so that I can understand how important these different things are to who I'm talking to. Because sometimes, there's some stuff I'm doing that I'll tell you about in a minute, but sometimes, and it happens more frequently than you might imagine, you go out after a story and it turns out that you're following a story and you're starting to get a story that is not at all what you first set out for it to be. And, in journalism, it's a little bit different. That can be okay. You just have to convince a few producers and a few other people that, hey, this was the real story, guys. And this is what these people were telling me as I sat across from them. It's a very intimate situation when we're interviewing and we're talking like that. In business, I've noticed, however, that it's not as easy to come back and say, listen, we thought we were going to do this, from a marketing standpoint. But now what I learned when I was out there is this is more of an issue from a marketing standpoint. We should be going after one of these marketing themes instead. So it's kind of, I joke, I call it to storyboard or not to storyboard. But storyboarding, and you probably know all about this, Perry, but in marketing, they want to see the storyboard of, okay, we're going to shoot this commercial or we're going to shoot this story, which ends up being, a longer format commercial sometimes, not all the time, not in brand storytelling, but traditional marketing, right? And so they say, all right, let's make a storyboard. And in the first scene, we're going to have this, and then this is going to happen, and then this is going to happen. And then someone usually makes these beautiful drawings and they hold it up and the marketing team goes, yay, go do that. Well, with brand storytelling, especially from a journalistic standpoint, it's the exact opposite. So we come up with a rough idea after hearing, what the marketing themes are and what some of the company priorities are. We go out after finding, the characters who we want to talk to about these things that we think will fulfill some of those ideas. And then we start listening and we start learning and we realize, wow, that's not at all the feedback that we're hearing about our product or our company or our service. So we better listen to what they're saying, because this is what people are actually talking about. This is how people are actually using our product or reacting to it. It's like invaluable. So then you go back and you go, well, I'll tell you what, this is really what the story is. And they go, oh yeah, but that's not what we wanted them to say. We wanted them to say this. that's not how it works, right? I mean, I need to be listening to what you guys are saying in a very unscripted and organic manner that is still for a lot of companies very brand new and kind of hard for them to adopt.
Right, because it's old school thinking to think that they're gonna have a plan and then they have to stick to it and carry it out. It's
Hmm.
very hard to be on the fly, so to speak, and just be able to adapt and adjust.
Yeah,
I could
all
see
about
that.
pivoting, right?
Right.
Hmm.
Pivoting, that's the word. I think it was of 2020, but it's becoming 2021 also. Pivoting, which is what we
Yeah.
all need to do. So let me ask you, we spoke about stepping out of line. Would you
Hmm.
say, what would you say would be the most memorable experience that you've had stepping out of line? Because obviously starting your own company, that's a big stepping out of line. Is there anything else you could think of, even in your
You
youth
know,
as a new reporter?
Gosh, I could think of a couple of smaller examples, which I'm happy to share, but I think the absolute biggest example is the whole transition that I've made from television news and journalism into corporate storytelling, or what we're calling now brand storytelling. That was a big stepping out of line for me because my entire career, all my training, everything that I did was really all about television news. Sure, there were interviews that, I needed to be very, very persistent. There were other interviews where I needed to dig deeply into an area that we didn't think we were or know we were going to have to do. Other times where breaking news would happen, which was a lot of the time since I did
Right.
so much live TV. That's certainly stepping out of line. But all of those things are, in my opinion, are somewhat involuntary and just maybe part of the job. The idea or the moment that I stepped out of line to go into business, I always say, and people laugh at me because that's so vague, but I think would be the biggest pivot that I have made and that has shaped my second half of my career, no doubt about it. And it wasn't easy at all. It was very, very hard because a lot of people saw me in business as oh, that anchor woman. Well, what is she going to know about what we do here at our company? She's been reading a teleprompter for 25 years because that's what they all kind
Right.
of
That's
seem to think it is. You just hop up there and someone does your makeup and you read the teleprompter. And certainly that wasn't the case because I don't think I would have um, garnered the skill sets that I have if that was all we were doing. So that storytelling piece and the interviewing and the getting to know people and all of the stuff that is my most favorite about my past career is what has been most important and the pinnacle of my second half of my career. And it really was not easy. It took a long time. And I think every day I kind of said, well, I don't really know if I'm actually doing this or not. But I guess now, what is it? 7 years in, I guess I'm really doing it. I'm really, really in brand storytelling now. Yeah.
Is there anybody you could think of in your career interviewing that you knew you were going to interview the person and you were all verklempt, you were sweating, you were like, what am I going to do? Or did your training always kick in and you just had it? That was it.
It's a really great question. Because I certainly don't want to say that I haven't been nervous or that I always knew exactly what I was doing and that I always had a perfect interview. I mean, that would be ridiculous to say. Um, but I can at the same time say that there's no substitute for training. There's no substitute for, I mean, there's just no way that even after these 58 or whatever we've decided it is interviews that you've done, Perry, that they don't feel easier now. And you haven't picked up some habits or some definitely do not do's or some of that. So that's all training. So I would say, people always ask me this question. at least, and who was your favorite interviewer? What was your biggest interview? So this is a nuance of this question, but I would answer it the same. I would say when I was interviewing a sitting president, and and I think it always is. I don't want to speak for every journalist out there, but it is always, a big moment, a pinnacle of your career, something that you hope for and wish for, I think, along the way to get that opportunity. Um, and the preparation that went into this particular interview was was deep and long, and I had envisioned it, and I had not slept, and I had just done pretty much everything that you could do, both right and wrong, for this moment to come. But then I'll tell you, when the moment came, and now this is after, SWAT teams are positioned up above where the interview took place. This is after special forces and the White House teams have built the set that we're going to sit on to do this interview. This is after my parents and my husband and my son had joined and are standing in the back of the where the interview was. My point is it couldn't have been a higher pressure, bigger interview than I'd ever done. But there was something about the training that I do think kicked in, because I'm not sure if that we've ever talked about this, but I don't use notes when I interview. I don't read questions. I don't prepare questions in advance. To me, what the success I've found is much more about having a conversation with someone, and knowing kind of in the back of your mind, or knowing the material well enough that the main points that you're going to have to cover, but then being very, very careful to keep it conversational and to listen, like we've talked about, because sometimes you can veer off course into something that's way, way better than what those 3 or 4 priorities that you thought you were going to be after take you. And that's what you have to be really careful of. So during that interview, I found that putting away at first I had prepared this list for the first time in my life. I had prepared this list, and I remember I had it sitting on my lap. And at the very, and there's a lot of people saying, do you have the questions? Do you have the questions?
Right.
I'm like, wait, why am I doing this? Why am I all of a sudden changing the way that I've done things pretty much my whole career because this is the biggest interview? I should have flipped that and say, this is the biggest interview that I've done. And now I'm going to do exactly what I've been doing all along, and it's going to be all the better. So once I did that, I think there was kind of this calm that came over me. And, the whole crowd, once the president arrived, was super welcoming and very, relaxed. And that helped a lot too. But if I hadn't been open to that, if I had been sticking to this, okay, question number 7 said this, and question number 3, okay, wait, I gotta go back up. What am I gonna do if he doesn't answer this? It would have just been a total mess. So I just kind of let it happen. I put the questions down on the ground. 2 producers behind me went like this, and we began the interview. And it ended up being the great conversation. We made news. In other words, all of the other networks picked up several segments of this interview. It was an exclusive interview. So that was a pretty big form of flattery for me. And I think, given the feedback from the president and the press secretary and the viewers and my mom and dad and my husband, right. It was a really solid interview, because it was just sort of a formal chat. And I think you probably know what I mean by that by now, with all of the interviews that you've done.
Yes. It's funny. I think one of the first interviews that we kind of really went somewhere where I was a little afraid to go, but we just did it, was Darryl Strawberry we interviewed. And we spoke about his life today, and we spoke about his past life when he was a ball player. And for some stupid reason, I wasn't afraid to ask him these questions that maybe I would have said, don't ask him or don't talk about it because I don't want to, step on anybody's toes and I don't want him to be uncomfortable. But I really wanted to know more about him and how he made that transition as a person. So
Right.
I just went for it.
Yeah.
And who am I, to do that? I'm, Long Island mom taking care of my daughter all day, and here I was asking Darryl Strawberry, and he was just amazing. And I'm so
Yeah.
glad that we did that interview the way that we did it. I find a few other people also that we've just asked questions that, you know, I really maybe had no right to ask, or who am I to ask? And we just ask it in such a way that not to make them feel uncomfortable, but to make them feel like they could open up. And I know it's worked for us. Perry and I, we prepare questions before an interview. We used to talk about what we're going to talk about. We both do research
Sure.
and we meet
Of course.
before, that kind of thing, and we do it.
And now
Now we go with the flow more, and some of
Yeah.
our funnest interviews are just going with the flow.
Right.
We're
Right.
just
And that's
laughing
not to
through-
say, right. And that's not to say not to do your research and not to know who you're talking to and some things in their past. And I don't mean anything, salacious, but, to make sure because how silly would you feel, right? If you wanted to go with the flow, but like maybe the day before, like this huge news story had
Right.
mentioned them or something, and you didn't know. So you still do all that, right? But then when it comes time for the interview, it's like playing golf. You can take all the lessons in the world and learn how to swing and do all this stuff. But when it comes time to go up there, you just hit the ball. So you got to kind of not flush, but just put all that stuff that you studied in the back of your mind so that you can have a good conversation.
Right.
You nailed that. That's exactly right.
Well, it's taken 50 to 50 something times. I'm sure our next 50 interviews will be even better. We once asked two friends, we said, what should we do? Should we interview? Who should we interview? How do we get interviews? And one person said, go big or go home. And the other person said, how about just the common ordinary man? And I asked Perry, what do you think? And she goes, go big or go home.
Yeah, right. I knew she would say that.
Right. We're doing this to go big or go home. And you knew when you met Perry years ago in 2017, right? That she had moxie to her, because when you met her and you spoke to her, you knew that she had to be strong and she had to have something to her in order to do what she does.
Yes.
And you saw that in her. And I think it's gotten, as she's going through school and learning more, and as she's becoming more confident in herself and her own marketing skills, it's like we created a monster, but she's like so far beyond what I could ever give her or do for her. So I'm like just running after her at this point. But
well, she's taken the ball and run with it. I mean, there's no
Yes.
doubt about that.
Yes.
It doesn't surprise me one single bit, Perry. I mean, my favorite part of the interview, you guys, and I know you'll remember, and I'll probably forget the numbers exactly, but when we were kind of talking about how this was going to go, and I asked you something about, once you get going and once you find like your rhythm and you're up and you're going, how's that going to feel? And you gave this amazing answer about you'll be, thinking about your friends, and you'll be thinking about camp, and you'll be thinking about all the people that you hope can do something like this. And then your mom's talked a little bit about how long it was going to take. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And Lori, you said something like, well, we think we're going to go, it'll take about an hour or so to be able to transition, or I can't quite remember what it was. And then Perry leaned over and she said, 45 minutes. And you said, okay, that's right. Well, got right. We'll do it in 45.
Right.
It was
I
so
remember that.
awesome. Yeah. It was my favorite part. You remember?
I remember that. I remember that.
Because that's who you are, right? You wanted to get out there and do what you wanted to do on your own time. And it was important to you to say, I don't think it'll take us that long.
Right.
I loved it.
That was probably the most fun we've ever had at a finish line. You meeting us right before and then running with us. And we just had so much fun. It was very exciting. And we've tried to recreate every year after that same excitement. And I think we've been successful. That last mile to the finish line, making it a big deal, whatever she's done, whether she's walked backwards, whatever she's done, And this year she's had a rough year medically, and I don't know what she will be able to physically accomplish at the next marathon, which
Yeah.
is February 6th, 2022. Whatever it
Nice.
is, I know we're going to have a great time, and we're bringing a big team again this year. And I'm hoping maybe you could
So
find some
happy.
reason to be in Miami on February 6th, 2022,
I
which
would love to be there. I would
which would be
love it.
fun. But we really try to make it as special as you made it. You showed us it can be that one year.
Yeah.
And it's just become part of, who we are even more so. And it
I'm
really shows
thrilled to
us,
hear it.
it just shows us that no matter what happens in life, there's always hope, and there's always something that amazing that can happen, even when you're in like your darkest times. And I know
Mhm.
most of us, 2020 and 2021 has been, a doozer. So,
Yeah,
just
it really has.
to have hope and to have, something amazing like that in your life is what's kept us going. So
I'm
we would
so
love for you to be
glad.
part of it again, part of Team Perry. It would be so much fun. And
Well,
and thank you for everything that you've given us. You've given us a huge
oh,
gift. And Heidi,
are
it
you
means
kidding?
everything.
Listen, you guys are by far the most favorite people that I have met in my entire 20, I don't even know how many years, and I hate saying it because then it dates me, but 28, 29 some odd years of telling stories. And the main reason is because um you not only keep in touch and allow me to keep in touch with you, but you have progressed so much since when I met you. I just loved being able to see that, we started with 1,000 steps, and then the next year you did more, and the next year more. And that was all because of you and wanting to set those stakes out even farther and those goals even higher. And that's the moxie that your mom is talking about. Not everybody does that. Some people are like, okay, well, I did that. And so now I'm done. But to continue going back and to making those goals even bigger and better is really something. And I admire that in you. And I think other people admire that in you. You keep them going. You keep them on the edge of their seats so they don't get complacent and they don't start settling for things when they could
Right.
be pushing themselves harder like you are.
In anything in life, whether it be, a marathon or shooting for people to interview,
That's right.
anything that she sets her mind to, she has a plan and she accomplishes it. And it might take her longer to do one thing, and she might have to go it like a roundabout way than she originally planned, but she's gonna
Right.
eventually accomplish it. So, um, we're telling
Well,
Kelly
I have no
Clarkson and
doubt.
Rock, yeah, we're interviewing you one day. I don't know how we'll do it, but Perry's after you. Heidi, we love
Good.
you. We
Love
love you.
you.
We love
Oh,
you,
thank you guys for having me.
and we
The,
miss
like the
you.
Perry hour or the
I
Perry
know,
half hour or whatever we've been talking. Got to come
but
up with a name,
I know.
right? And then take them all and
Fireside
put them
chat.
on there. Yeah.
Fireside chat without the fire.
No fire.
No fire.
Last thing I want to tell you, because I don't think I really verbalized on this very well. When I'm when I'm trying to get a new client, I've put together a deck that has all the stuff we do and who I am and who my team is and why video is important, all the stuff that you would imagine on there. And of course, the last page, what do you think is there? Work samples. What do you think is at the very top? Our piece together.
Oh,
So I really do. It really did mean the world to me. And it really is a very, if I do say so myself, I mean, I had a lot of people working with me and helping me. I had a great editor and, just
amazing.
wonderful. And then you guys, like, hello, are wonderful, wonderful characters, as you say, in a story, right? And characters in real life.
Right.
um, but yeah, I mean, we have that piece right at the top for people to look at and see the kind of work that we do. So
It was, I
it's
haven't met anybody who
I'm
hasn't
very
cried
grateful.
watching it. It's a very emotional, beautiful video that you put your heart into. And it was
Oh,
obvious that you put everything you had into it.